Okay, so we are on page 14, which is why you see page 14 as the thumbnail and what's on the screen. But we're actually going to finish reading 13 because in the last video we only did the first half of 13. So we're going to start with the second half of page 13 now, then we'll move into 14. And this second half of 13, which we're going to start with, is possibly the most important part of this whole article, because this gives us the suggestions moving forward that we need to embrace to solve these problems that we've been discussing here. So if you want to get a screenshot from the last video, page 13, this is the bottom half, and then we'll move into 14 in this video. So let us now address the third question. If the current policies are halakhically and morally deficient, how should we be addressing the issue of conversion to Judaism? So here are some suggestions. Number one, Orthodox rabbis must raise their voices to oppose the current restrictive policies of the establishment Orthodox Beit Din. They must express outrage at the mistreatment of potential converts and the abuse of halakhic converts whose Jewish credentials are being cast into doubt. If we do not resist the current misguided policies, we thereby become accomplices. Number two, the Orthodox public, this means you, must insist that its day schools, yeshivot, and synagogues teach a range of valid halakhic opinions on the topic of conversion, as well as on so many other topics. If we are supporting institutions that foster an erroneous halakhic position on conversion, then we are accomplices. Number three, Orthodox rabbis must insist that every convert converted by Orthodox rabbis is a full Jew in the eyes of Halacha, in the eyes of God, and in the eyes of the Jewish community. No convert should be blackballed, whether in Israel or the diaspora, because the current Beit Din establishment refuses to endorse the conversion. And this is one of the rare topics where it's the same. You know, you could pick just about any topic other than conversion, and you could say, well, there's multiple opinions. We go by this source instead of that source. It's the same in the Talmud, the Mishnah Torah, the Shulchan Aruch. It does not deviate. This is a modern problem that has been invented by the rabbis. Throughout all of these sources, the conversion process is the same. It's one of the unique areas of Judaism that is not really up for debate. Number four, the Orthodox public must be vigilant that its schools and other institutions accept all halakhic converts with love and compassion. Number five, Orthodox rabbis must make it clear that they view candidates for conversion as well as converts as deserving of our respect and affection. We must have a compassionate, inclusive attitude and must take into consideration the circumstances that brought these people to us in the first place. Number six, the Orthodox public must support those rabbis who foster legitimate diversity within Halacha, must support those institutions that fight for a righteous, compassionate, and inclusive orthodoxy, must have moral courage to stand up against the injustices and cruelties perpetuated in the guise of raising standards and creating uniform standards. Now, I've talked to a lot of rabbis who agree with everything that I'm saying here. But when it comes to being a voice for this, they seem to shrink down. They say, well, yes, I agree with you. You're right, but I don't want to make a lot of noise. I don't want to face backlash. So they agree because they're knowledgeable enough to know that everything being said here is 100% correct, but they're not willing to publicly state it because they don't have the courage to take on the establishment, which has a problem defending the way they're abusing converts to begin with. But such is life in these times. At a time when many thousands of people have converted to Judaism and many thousands more wish to do so, the Orthodox rabbinate needs to project a framework for conversion that is halakhically sound and ethically responsible. The challenges of the 19th century that generated the restrictive views of the Hatam Sofer, Yitzhak Shmelkes, and others are different from the challenges our community is facing today. We live at a time when a sovereign Jewish state exists and must absorb hundreds of thousands of individuals who are not halakhically Jewish. We live at a time when intermarriage rates in the diaspora are at an astronomical level and show no signs of declining. We live at a time when thousands of people would be willing to turn to Orthodox rabbis for halakhic conversion if only we presented a halakhic framework for conversion that is meaningful, accessible, and respectful to the needs and concerns of the converts themselves. Local Orthodox rabbis, using their own knowledge of each case on a personal basis, are far better equipped to deal with the challenges of conversion today than rabbinic bureaucracies. The Halacha provides, and as far as the bureaucracies go, I can tell you a lot of rabbis are not happy with the rabbinate in Israel. And they'll even tell you that the rabbinate in Israel does not decide who they count in a minyan. They tell you they decide who they count in a minyan in their communities. So it's not necessarily the bureaucracy always. Sometimes these rabbis are the ones pushing the people away. They say that they're in charge of who they recognize and who they don't, but then when they don't want to take responsibility for why they're not recognizing a halakha conversion, then they shift the blame. Oh, well, it's the rabbinut doesn't recognize it, so they don't want us to. It comes down to each rabbi not recognizing halakhic conversions because they don't want to. The buck stops there with them. The Halacha provides leeway and multiple views about the nature of the conversion process. Halakhic Judaism should not be constricted to only one halakhic view, and certainly not to the most rigid and restrictive view. It must be recognized that different legitimate halakhic positions are available, just as there are different legitimate hashkafic opinions. At this period of historic challenge, the Orthodox rabbinate can either rise to greatness or shrink into self-righteous isolationism. Thus far, the rabbinic Bet Din establishment has chosen the latter course, the worst possible choice. It is not too late to turn things around. The honor of God, Torah, and the Jewish people are at stake. This concludes the article, and the second half of page 14 has the sources for the first part of this article, and then I'm going to make another short video with the screenshot of page 15 so you can have the rest of the sources for this article. And if it's not legible, which it might not be on the thumbnail, if you look in the description, you can see what I've typed there. You can just type in the name of the article into a search engine, which is Conversion to Judaism, Halacha, Hashkafa, and Historic Challenge. The first link it brings up should be this article. And on that website, there's a place where you can click and you can generate this in PDF form. So you can print this up and you can share it, translate it, and you can have this available for your communities as well. So I'm going to make the 15th video, and that will conclude the first part of this series.